Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Roshan Muhammed Salih here, the editor of Five Pillars, and this is the big picture. And I'd just like to start off the show by saying Ramadan Mubarak to all the Muslims out there. Pray that this month is going well for you all and that it will be a spiritually and physically uplifting month. And I wish you all the barakah that is possible during this holy month. Now, of course, I'm doing this show because all eyes are on Pakistan. Prime Minister Imran Khan, who's very popular, especially amongst the diaspora Pakistanis in the West, has been ousted. And he has claimed the reason why he's been ousted is because of the United States, because of a foreign conspiracy, because of a foreign plot against him. He's fingered the United States directly. The Sharifs and the Bhuttos are back in power, the old guard that has played such a prominent role in Pakistani politics since the 1970s, especially. And Bilawal Bhutto, who could hardly speak a word of Urdu, I hear, it's going to come as a relief to him because he's been appointed as the new foreign minister. So he can speak English all the time now, like he does anyway in the Pakistani parliament. And we have Shehbaz Sharif, the brother of the discredited Nawaz Sharif, as the new prime minister. The military is being blamed for Imran Khan's downfall, and the nation seems to be completely split. On today's show, we are going to be asking, did the US take down Imran Khan? Coming up, we have several guests, and we're going to try to balance the show out. I'm not just going to give you a propaganda show from one side or another. So we're going to talk to people with different opinions, and we're going to play devil's advocate and ask some searching questions, inshallah. I'm also going to try a little experiment. I don't know whether you guys remember the last big picture, but at the end of the show, I invited some of you guys on to join the live stream, and we had a conversation between us. It seemed to work quite well, so I'm going to give it a try again. Dilly Hussain will be in the comments section. He'll be moderating the comments. He'll be having a chat with you, and he's going to share the live link around 10:45 p.m. And I'm going to invite, if you're brave enough to come on and have a go, I'm going to invite you on, inshallah. I'm also going to share the donation link. Perhaps Dilly can do that as well. You can see it on the ticker there. It is Ramadan. We are soliciting your donations. Super chats is not set up for those who are asking that question. We're having, I think, a few issues with monetization. We've got to set that up first. But we are going to be sharing the donation link, and we will be very grateful for your donations, brothers and sisters. We really need it because this is the time, Ramadan, like many other Muslim organizations, where we make the money that allows us to survive for the rest of the year and to do the kind of journalism that we're bringing to you day in, day out during the course of the year. Okay, let's start off with a poll, because a few days ago I ran a 5 Pillars poll, and I asked this very question: who's to blame for the crisis in Pakistan? And 17% said Imran Khan, and 83%, a resounding 83%, said the US and Pakistani allies. Now, I'm not sure if that poll is skewed or not. Obviously, it was only about 700 people voted over a day or so, so I'm not pretending it's a scientific poll. But at the same time, I think 5 Pillars readership tends to be diaspora Pakistanis. Are they out of touch with Pakistanis in Pakistan? That's one of the questions I'm going to be asking today. Before we get into it, the latest news, let me bring you up to date, inshallah. So Pakistan's parliament today elected Shehbaz Sharif as the new prime minister. Bilawal Bhutto is the foreign minister. Imran Khan's Tehreek-e-Insaf PTI party has resigned en masse. So Imran Khan has resigned as an MP, as have all his party members. Sharif announced in his maiden speech to Parliament an increase in wages, salaries, pensions, and minimum wage for laborers. He said he will expedite the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor project and rebuild broken ties with partners and allies. I'm not sure whether he meant the West there. Perhaps he did. With India, he said, we want good relations, but there cannot be a sustainable peace unless the issue of Kashmir is resolved. Shehbaz Sharif is 70 years old. He was elected to the National Assembly, the parliament, in 2018. He's headed the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz party, after his elder brother, Nawaz Sharif, who's currently in London, was barred from holding public office for life after he was found guilty of corruption. There are corruption allegations against Shahbaz Sharif as well. I think he was in jail for a short period of time, but they haven't been proven. So as of this moment, he stands exonerated. Okay, before I get into the show, maybe let's take a few of your comments. I encourage you guys to send as many comments in as possible. Please share this link so we get more people on the live stream, more people contributing, inshallah. Send in your comments. I'll endeavor to read out as many as you can. I'll bounce off them, and so will my guests, inshallah. Okay, so we'll start off. We'll skip the salam alaikums from everybody, and I'll just give you a general walaikum salam back. Hayan says he will be back in reference to Imran Khan, no doubt. Yeah, perhaps I think his strategy is possibly to go for early elections, which perhaps he might force in around 6 months. So who knows? He could be prime minister again in around 6 months' time. Usman says it's Taraweeh time. I have tried to time this for just after Taraweeh. And inshallah, people who are finishing up Taraweeh will join us as we go along. I didn't want to put it too late. Uncle Sam says, one official says Uncle Sam didn't like Prime Minister Imran Khan telling them to off politely. The slave days are over. Watch Richard Medhurst. Yeah, he's very prominent on Twitter. I don't follow him very closely, so perhaps you guys, thanks for that reference, Goldfinger. Sister Z says, will Brother Dilly be on the live? No, he's not going to be on the live, unless he wants to come on a bit later on. Perhaps he can towards the end, but he is going to be in the chat, so I think he'll be interacting with you guys presently. Walaikum salam. Ramadan Mubarak to you, and Ramadan Mubarak to everybody. Sparrow says all Pakistanis support Imran Khan because the US will destroy Pakistan. I'm not sure if that's true, Sparrow. From what I've been hearing, quite a lot of Pakistanis don't support Imran Khan, especially those inside the country. I think the country seems to be quite split. So we have to be fair, but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not Pakistani, and I'm certainly not an expert on Pakistan. I know there's going to be a lot of diaspora Pakistanis on the feed who know much more than me, and inshallah those in Pakistan as well. Although 5 Pillars, believe it or not, is banned in Pakistan. We still don't know why. It's literally, if you go to Pakistan, you got to use a VPN to access 5 Pillars, because for some reason, and I've got no idea why, maybe it's because we carried some articles against the authorities from time to time, we're banned in Pakistan. That's really unfortunate, because Pakistan is definitely one of the major Muslim countries. So this is the support link, support 5 Pillars. Please use that link to donate as the live stream goes on. And if you can't see it here, you'll see it on the ticker below me underneath. I'll take a few more comments. Dilly's saying salam alaikum to everybody. So Dilly's arrived. And let's go a little bit further. So I'm skipping a few comments now. The Pakistani military supports the United States. I don't think you understand that area's history. Okay, we'll put that comment to our guests, inshallah. Okay, brothers and sisters, let's start off the show, kick off the show with a few videos before we get into the discussion with the guests. And last night in Karachi, in Lahore, in many other Pakistani cities, there were very large demonstrations. And let me play out a video of one of them, I believe in Karachi, which took place last night.
Imran Khan ko ohde se utar ke. They temporarily succeeded in removing Imran Khan from office. All political parties, judiciary, including many others, have been involved in removing him. They can remove Imran Khan, but they cannot break him. Here in Pakistan, the United States decides who is to govern. This will no longer be accepted. We stand against it. We are not afraid of anyone. We will resist every institution this time. We will now resist.
इसके अगेंस्ट खड़े हैं, हम नहीं डरते किसी से, हम अब एक इदारे के खिलाफ मुज़ाहमत करेंगे, सिर्फ मुज़ाहमत होगी और मुज़ाहमत हम अमेरिका के खिलाफ.
We stand by Imran Khan against America till our last breath. We will not accept this government of slavery. No one can take away our freedom. We are born free and we want to live in a free country.
Okay, brothers and sisters, that was in Karachi last night, and I'm going to now show you a take from a friend of the channel, a very seasoned and eloquent political analyst, especially of the Arab world, but also of the wider Muslim world, Sami Hamdi. And he had this to say about Imran Khan's ouster. He feels that the US and its allies in the Muslim world are going to be very happy to see the back of him.
And actors who will be celebrating the toppling of Imran Khan in Pakistan. Among them are Saudi Arabia, the UAE and the European far right, who have been exceptionally uncomfortable with Imran Khan's loud and outspoken defense of Islam and the implications of his soaring popularity in the Muslim world in a period in which they are seeking to de-Islamize their societies and move away from Islamic influences. Saudi Arabia's Mohammed bin Salman is in the midst of de-Islamizing the kingdom and has shifted his foreign policy priorities accordingly. When Israel stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque and bombarded Gaza last year, Saudi media backed the Israeli narrative and blamed the Palestinians, while Imran Khan lambasted the Israeli oppression. When France's Macron defended the cartoons ridiculing the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and then proceeded to pass a range of draconian laws restricting the freedoms of French Muslims, the UAE insisted Macron was correct to do so in the interest of French national security, while Imran Khan criticized Macron and delivered a historic speech in the UN denouncing Islamophobia and the role of states in exacerbating it. In 2019, Malaysia's Mahathir Mohamad sought to convene a summit of Muslim nations in protest at Saudi and UAE policies and invited Pakistan, Indonesia, Turkey and Qatar. With Pakistan and Indonesia, the summit would have represented more than half of the world's Muslim populations. Saudi Arabia and UAE panicked and proceeded to threaten Imran Khan by telling him they would withdraw investments and send Pakistanis back to Pakistan if he attended. Saudi and the UAE have also been annoyed at the manner in which Imran Khan has sought to use the OIC to try to force them into positions on issues such as Kashmir and Palestine. Saudi and the UAE are pursuing closer ties with both India and Israel and are keen not to antagonize either. Both have sought to disassociate from these Muslim issues and separate them from national interest. Yet Imran Khan has consistently sought to push the OIC into public positions that they would rather avoid. For the far right of Europe, the momentum Imran Khan inspired in Muslim communities and his persistence in pushing for measures at the UN against Islamophobia have been a source of particular irritation. This is why, with the toppling of Imran Khan, the prominent Dutch Islamophobe Geert Wilders tweeted, "Good riddance, wa inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un."
Yeah, so it does seem, according to Sami Hamdi, that a lot of, let's face it, the enemies of the Muslims are cock-a-hoop today. We saw Narendra Modi basically welcoming Shahbaz Sharif into office. I certainly don't think he did that when Imran Khan came into office. Okay, brothers and sisters, I think, the majority of our guests today are probably going to be pro-Imran Khan or anti the ouster, even if they don't agree with everything Imran Khan does or what he stands for. And probably the majority of comments that we're going to get through will be pro Imran Khan as well. So I wanted to balance it out a bit because I don't want this to be a completely one-way propaganda show. I like to hear different opinions. So earlier today, I talked to a guest in Islamabad. His name is Ali Salman. He's the executive director of Prime, an economic policy think tank in Islamabad. And he's also the CEO of the Islam and Liberty Network. And Ali basically doesn't buy the notion that Imran Khan was ousted by the US. He feels as though Imran Khan mismanaged the economic situation and he mismanaged parliament and he was losing support even amongst his allies. They were defecting to the opposition. And he has conveniently used the American bogeyman as a scapegoat to cover his own failings. So I spoke to Ali a little bit earlier on today because there's this 4-hour time difference in Pakistan. And it's about a 15-minute interview. And during the interview, inshallah, I will flash up some of your comments. Here we go. Imran Khan has said that his ouster is basically due to a foreign conspiracy. He's named the United States. And we've seen mass protests in Pakistani cities last night, even abroad. There in London, where I live, there was a protest outside Nawaz Sharif's house. What's your take on what's exactly happened? Is there any merit to Imran Khan's claims?
So I think this incident about Imran Khan's claim about the U.S. involvement in the conspiracy to dislodge his government should be viewed in a historical context. He first of all he talked about this diplomatic communication on 27th of March, whereas he has been in power for about 4 years. And there is a history of the promises and the expectations which he had built before coming to power, through the elections in 2018. And if you look back, the government of PTI, the number one, of course, the claim was that they would, scale down on corruption. They will improve the economic independence, and they will ensure speedy justice. The central ethos of his political party. But if you look back, we can say that in terms of the economy, yes, there have been some improvement, some reforms were undertaken, but those were then led to populist politics. And in terms of justice being delivered, we didn't see any huge improvement in the criminal justice system, in how lower courts work, for instance. And also, unfortunately, Pakistan dropped down significantly on the perception of corruption index, transparency index in these 4 years. So there have been a lot of question marks on the performance of the government. Here comes the diplomatic communique between the American ambassador, between Pakistani ambassador based in Washington and Pakistani Foreign Office in Islamabad, narrating a conversation which occurred in Washington, in which supposedly, of course, I've not seen the letter, very few people have, talking about the, in the context of Ukraine-Russia war, asking Pakistani support, and then allegedly, asking about the dislodging of Imran Khan government if it doesn't cooperate. So this is the sort of context. But the main claim...
If I can press you on it, Ali, do you buy what he's saying?
No, I don't. The main claim is that the vote of no confidence movement, as a result of which he is no more the prime minister as of last 2 days. The main claim is that this vote of no confidence is a direct result of international conspiracy. Now, while I do not deny the fact that there must have been some communication in Washington, D.C., and this communication is not a new thing for Pakistan and for any country for that matter. Different countries pursue their interest, and Pakistan has been a strategic ally of US, has been a recipient of aid, export partner, and historically Pakistan has been a frontline state in last 30, 40 years. So Pakistan-US relations have never been smooth. When Pakistan went into nuclear blast 1998, US pressurized the government to actually not to reciprocate Indian nuclear blasts in 1998. But the Pakistani government took the pressure. Sanctions were imposed on Pakistan back in late 90s as a result of it, but they did not take the US pressure. And just after 3 years, we had the 9/11, and then the whole sort of history took a different course. So to say that this is a direct result of a conspiracy is a very loud claim.
But Ali, at the same time, it has been obvious over the last few years looking from the outside that Imran Khan has been trying to rebalance Pakistan's foreign policy, and he's made these overtures to China, Russia. Recently, we saw in the midst of the Ukraine war, he goes to Moscow. So he has tried to balance it, away from unique dependence on the West. Surely the US couldn't have missed that, right? And they will be happy that he's gone. They'll be glad to see the back of him.
Well, I think, first of all, I'd like to submit that Pakistan was already in a rebalancing position vis-a-vis China, at least, if not vis-a-vis Russia. So in the previous government, and even before that, Pakistan had started what is now called China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is the most significant and the largest investment under the Belt and Road Initiative of China, right? So it is with Pakistan. And so that was the most significant milestone of China-Pakistan relationship. And also China-Pakistan military cooperation has been there, besides the Pakistan-US cooperation in different fields. So that rebalancing, I think, was well on its way. And actually, there's a wide perception, and I buy that perception, that during this government, this Imran Khan government, Pakistan-China relationship actually deteriorated. China was complaining that we are not progressing further on China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and there have been a lot of bad press about the whole project, even from the minister's point of view. So in that sense, of course, I would favor that Pakistan should not be in one camp, and perhaps Pakistan should try to diversify its diplomatic relationships significantly. But I think this is more complex than just saying that US punished Pakistan for being in Russian camp.
I'm not sure if this is your position, but I have heard people say that basically, the reason why he's gone is that he lost support in Parliament, and his own allies defected, etc., and he lost the vote. He failed to play the parliamentary game. Is that basically what you think?
That is, that is heart of the matter, actually, because back in 2018, his party did not have a simple majority, and he had to rely on a coalition government to actually form the government, which was still a thin majority. So in Pakistan National Assembly, a party needs 172 votes to make the government, and his party and the coalition had 179 votes in total. So only 7 votes were there in excess of what was needed. So it was a thin and fragile sort of coalition government. And also many parliamentarians in his party were introduced much later on during the, just before the election or around the election time back in 2018. They were not members, they were not traditionally members of his party. And so there were many members within the party, and then there were coalition partners who made the part of the government. And of course, the other factor is that we should never forget is the role of military establishment, which also played a favorable role in bringing him. But that's not unique to him. I mean, the military establishment role has been there forever. So it's not just unique to him.
Just looking on social media, when it comes to Imran Khan supporters, the military have come in for a bit of criticism, basically, being accused of being part of this plot. I mean, it's often said that the military and I guess the ISI, really are the ones that really control Pakistan. What has been their position?
It's a very complex situation now. As I said, in each political regime, I'm talking about democratic political regime. Of course, half of the time Pakistan was under direct military rule. There has been some role of military, whether through some arrangement like National Security Council or backdoor channels. So it is understood that you have to be sort of, as they say, on the same page in Islamabad and Rawalpindi, where the military headquarters is, to run the government smoothly. And yes, what happened last year, that the civilian government, Imran Khan, and the military leadership actually developed serious differences over the appointment of the head of ISI, where Imran Khan clearly picked wanted to, one particular general to be continuing the agency, whereas the military chief, wanted to bring someone else of his choice. And since this was perceived as something internal to military administration, Imran Khan's insistence and his sort of delay in the notification was not taken lightly by the army chief. And so I think that's there in last year, somewhere in September, their relationships sort of started getting sour. And then there was issue of the current military chief is on an extension, and extension is finishing this November. But I guess that was not the major issue, but still it was highlighted. The key thing was Imran Khan wanted a particular general to be head of ISI, and comes November 2022, it is believed that he wanted him to be the next army chief.
Okay.
And that was not accepted by others.
But the upshot of this, Ali, is that we've got the Sharif family back in power, right? Civilian leadership. So Shahbaz, the brother, is going to be taking over now. And I think for many diaspora Pakistanis anyway, because those are the people that I mainly mix with, they think it's back to the old days. The two corrupt feudal landlord dynasties, the Sharifs and the Bhuttos, have made this pact and they're back in power. Back to the good old days, or the bad old days.
Shahbaz Sharif has been already elected just about 2 or 3 hours before in the National Assembly, so he is the elected prime minister. I think I know many friends who are, of course, outside Pakistan, and my own family members also. Many of them also are outside Pakistan, and they all love Imran Khan, and they all hate Sharifs and Benazir Bhutto or Bhutto's family in general. So they seem to have grown a very simplistic view of Pakistani politics and Pakistani governance. It's a reality, our own political culture and how democracy has evolved through these particular networks of interest, right? And so there is no denying the fact that this is not an ideal situation. We are seeing a re-emergence of the Sharif family in the politics. But you see, there is no sort of natural way to get away with it, because normally we say that, okay, the military brought this sort of hybrid experiment, as they call it, to get rid of this hereditary politics and the Bhutto and the Sharif family. But it was not, it could not happen, because the way politics is organized, the way democracy is organized in Pakistan, I think this is not the main issue. The main issue is that whether a particular government is going to improve services, administration, economy, rule of law in Pakistan or not. This should be the debate, rather than a debate about who is particularly going to rule the country.
What is the feeling in Pakistan now? Is it a completely split country in terms of who it's supporting?
It is deeply polarized at the moment. I must confess and agree with that. People in cities last night, there were huge protests in favor of Imran Khan. Believe that he was ousted unjustifiably, and it is not the first time, by the way, that people are openly chanting slogans against the military. It has been happening. It has been happening for a number of years now, but they just happen to learn now. It's ironic, right? When they see it, when even their own followers saw it. Okay, this is what is happening. So in a way, I see that it's a good thing that, of course, all parties also realize that that there wasn't, back in 2005, for instance, there was this an agreement between Sharifs and Bhutto, which was on the importance of democracy. It was called Charter of Democracy, and the agreement was that there would be a broad political consensus on the civilian supremacy. And I think to quite an extent, these governments the respective political leadership respected that, but then they could not deliver what they were supposed to deliver, and the political parties were not organized, not strengthened in time. We still see Bhutto on the other hand, or Zardari Bhutto, and then the Sharif and their family. So that is the reality. But I think along the side, there have been some other influential members of these parties which have emerged and have played somewhat a positive role. But I think this is something which Pakistan has to live with at least for foreseeable future.
Running out of time, Ali, but two quick questions to finish. I mean, Imran Khan, does he have a future? Is he going to end up in jail? Does he have a future in Pakistani politics?
Well, it depends. I think first of all on the timing of elections. So they are betting on a very early election. There have been in the news that they are going to resign en masse today from the National Assembly. So they have taken this huge risk, basically betting that the government will be forced to call early elections. And if it happens in next 6 months, there are chances that Imran Khan will come back to the power and maybe with a clearer and bigger majority.
And how do you see the future of Pakistan generally, internally and externally, because of the events of the last few weeks?
Well, I think the one good thing is that which happened is the Supreme Court role. I and many of my friends in the civil society and academia are viewing the Supreme Court decision very positively. I think that we need clarity on the constitution and the rule of law, and there was a clear political impasse which was resolved by a Supreme Court ruling. So this was clearly a silver lining in our complex political scenario. But I also see, I think, second good thing, I feel that there is a broad political consensus on for instance, the interprovincial relations, on the importance of a national army. Whether you like it or not, we have in the new coalition government, which is formed today, very sort of diverse representation of political groups. So this may be a good thing. But ultimately, even Shehbaz Sharif would be tested for his performance on the economic front. That's where the real test would come.
And finally, will Pakistan reorientate itself back towards the West, do you think?
I think Pakistan already has taken a diverse route for last 10 or 15 years. As I said, Pakistan made conscious decision to invest heavily. When China invested heavily in Pakistan, no other country in last few years have invested as much as China has. So Pakistan will I think, follow a more balanced approach vis-a-vis China, US, and even Russia. I think there is, it's not that the first time they went to Russia, but of course there have been some movements along that direction. And I hope that Pakistan also normalizes its relationship with India, despite all the differences over Kashmir. That is something which I hope really takes something forward.
Okay, Ali Salman, thank you very much. Okay, brothers and sisters, that was Ali Salman, the CEO of the Islam Liberty Network and the director of Prime there in Islamabad. And judging by some of the comments, I know some of you didn't want to particularly hear what he had to say, but I insisted on playing that out because I didn't want this show to be completely Imran Khan is wonderful, Imran Khan is great. Let's hear the other point of view as well. So I'm glad I got Ali Salman on. Okay, let's get a couple of other guests on. I'm going to get them on at the same time and introduce them to you as I go. Okay, so give me a second while I add these two brothers to the stream. So on my right is Jahangir Mohammed. Assalamu alaikum, Jahangir. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. Ramzan Mubarak to everybody. I'm fine, thank you. Hope you're well.
And Jahangir is joining us from the Islamic Republic of Manchester, or Didsbury, or something like that. And I'll introduce, before I get the second guest on, Jahangir is the founder of the IAN Institute, which is a new think tank in the UK dedicated to helping shape a Muslim world that's independent, united, prosperous, and free from wars and conflicts. We carry lots of articles from IAN on the Five Pillars website. If people want to Google the IAN Institute, that's AYAAN. You can find their work on the Five Pillars site, but also they have their own website, and you can figure out what they have to do. Jahangir is a seasoned veteran, even older than me, I think. I met Jahangir when I was in my early 20s, I think. And you must have been in your 30s then, right? Something. Yeah. Trying to guess your age here. But Jahangir used to be, or you were an analyst on Muslim global affairs, or you have been for the last 28 years. And at the bottom of my screen is my old friend Aki Nawaz.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum,
Jahangir.
Wa alaikum salam, Aki. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well, bro.
Nice to see you, bro.
Aki, do you mind lowering your camera a little bit? Because you got loads of headroom there. We can't see your face.
Is that all right?
That's much better. So Aki Nawaz, I'm guessing most of you guys know who Aki is. A musician, an activist. What else are you up to these days, Aki?
I just continue to make trouble. That's my speciality.
And you spend a heck of a lot of time in Pakistan, don't you?
Yeah. I was there for 7-8 months, just the end of last year or whatever. And I can smell the politics and the earth and the nuances and I also observe just the behavior of people when I'm there and their narratives. You know, even inside the family, people support Nawaz Sharif, people support Imran, people support some of the
really?
mullahs.
Well, I'm going to ask you about that. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about where to make hijrah to, and they said Bradford.
Well, I made it.
And that's where you're joining us today from Bradford, aren't you, I think?
Yeah, I'm up in Bradford. I've been in Bradford for about 8 or 9 months now, and I really enjoy it. You know, there's nuances and things that go on here which are really important to kind of understand.
All right, let me start with Jahangir. I'm going to ask you both questions straight off the bat. What do you make of the situation, Jahangir?
Well, I think for me, it's not much of a shock. To be honest, Imran Khan broke the two-party dynastic mold when he came to power. Pakistan has had to live with that. He forged a movement over 20-odd years on the basis of his opposition to the war on terror and after the Panama Papers on corruption. And on both those issues, he was right. The Pakistani people took to that. All Pakistanis know the extent of corruption in Pakistan. And he did well when he was outside the system, mobilizing a movement, mobilizing the people. But I think once he got into that system, into an alliance, it was inevitable that the two dynasties and those who were charged with corruption were going to fight tooth and nail to bring him down and to destroy him in some way. And of course, it's also true that his policies on the war on terror were different to previous leaders and to the official army position that we've had for 20 years. And therefore, that was going to get resistance. I think possibly COVID put a hold on that resistance. And I think it was inevitable. This is a failed system, a failed democracy. Our brothers and sisters in Pakistan like to claim that this is some kind of sophisticated system where people maneuver, and if you don't understand it, you don't understand Pakistani politics. This is a system built on a two-party system, very much like elsewhere. It's cloak and dagger stuff, Machiavellian stuff, and I think, unfortunately, Imran Khan is not an expert at playing that. He's quite upfront on what he believes. He was outmaneuvered, but I think there are lots of other factors here to do with the United States and policy.
Well, let me ask you about that, Jahangir. I mean, is he? I mean, I think most of us, including myself, maybe, have gone along with this narrative that he was ousted by the US. But was he really? Was he really, or is he just clutching at straws and playing on anti-American sentiments to kind of basically cover for his own inadequacies?
Well,
what's the proof?
The proof, I think, obviously, that's a valid argument. He's the leader of a political party, and all political parties engage in propaganda and spin. So I'm sure there's a bit of that. But from what we've seen, obviously, he's tied by the Official Secrets Acts in Pakistan. We probably need Julian Assange with the leaking a few memos. But there have been references to what's contained in the memo. You know, the Army General Bajwa has also referred to it. So there's clearly something there. And we know the United States threatens people. But for me, the evidence as a political analyst lies in the fact that there are some clear differences. For example, Biden hasn't met with him, talked to him. We know that the United States was unhappy. They didn't want a sole Taliban government. They wanted their own people in there along with others. They blamed Pakistan for that. They wanted to continue with military bases for their strategic goals against China. They didn't get that from Imran Khan. So they have a Cold War against China. So these two countries are strategic. They need them. And of course, then, you know, he didn't toe the line on China with them. He hasn't toed the line on Russia with them. So I think it was always inevitable, and we know the history of the United States, that they were going to take him out in some way or form.
Jahangir, let me bring Aki in. What's he feeling about the situation, Aki?
Well, Jahangir has talked about a lot of issues that I kind of agree with. The only thing that I kind of part company is that I was actually shocked, because I thought, you know, from the smell of the country and that was going, you know, and how people were feeling on the ground and everything like this. I mean, you know, the economy is a very difficult subject due to COVID. And if you're thinking about, you know, he's been in there for 3 years, just over 3 years or whatever, 2 years have basically been taken out due to the COVID thing. But I think when you have someone like Imran, you have to accept that he's gonna shift things. He's not gonna play the game like it was played before, because he lived in the West. He knew the politics of the West. He understands the language and he understands the nuances of how the West operate and everything like this. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with somebody attempting to get out of the subservient history to the West, where somebody's attempting to get out of it. You know, it's an honourable step he was taking, and I think people do support that. Yes, there might be an element of naivety in terms of knowing how the politic works, because I think he comes more from instinct than he does come from shrewd, kind of, you know, insidious kind of politics. I don't think he really plays that. I think that's what.
Brothers, should we take a few questions, because we've got loads of questions coming in and comments.
Majority of the country.
Sorry, Aki.
I think the majority of the country were actually.
Sorry, Aki, you're coming in and out, but let me take a few questions. I think your audio is going in and out, so we can't quite hear you properly. Dilly's asking a question. How true is it that the Army, ISI, and Deep State ultimately decides who wins elections? Jahangir?
Well, I don't think it's so much a case of winning elections. I think there's a merry-go-round. What we now know is that the Army clearly is involved in this troika of the People's Party and Nawaz Sharif, where they get charged with corruption, they go inside. Nawaz Sharif could not have left Pakistan for the United Kingdom without the go-ahead of the army. And obviously has influence in the judiciary. And Imran was against that. But, the minute he came to London, we've been here before when he was in Saudi Arabia, when Benazir was here. London were always going to play him. The US, we've been here with Blair before, where they basically went to Musharraf and told him to remove those generals that were pro-Taliban in the army before the war on terror. So there's a well-worn script, and certainly the army, in a way, allows this merry-go-round with the corrupt to go on to suit their agenda when they want to get closer to the United States or in another way. And I think we now have to call this out, that this failed system where in 74 years no prime minister has had a full 5-year term, this cannot happen without some level of military collaboration. I mean, you don't have somebody who's out on bail for corruption and money laundering. You don't put that person in charge of the nation's finances. This is ridiculous. You arrest people, you take them out if they are involved in crime and corruption and financial mismanagement. You don't keep them going in and out of parliament. So there's a game being played here, and the Pakistani people have been victims to it, and it's about time. The judiciary have failed, the media have failed to hold these people to account, and the army have failed. The only way to stop this now is for the people themselves to take control and to take these corrupt people out of, demand that they are arrested and put behind bars. This is the only way it's going to end. And we must, look at another way of organizing the political affairs of Pakistan. This system has failed. It's a failed democracy. I would call it a corruptocracy. Some call it a kleptocracy. But this system has not worked for Pakistan. And, the idea that they're doing this for the economy, the last thing that improves the economy is political instability. There's only one way that the economy is going to go now. When you've had 2.5 years of COVID, when the entire world has not really been bothered about their economies, but preventing deaths, which Imran Khan has done well. They've only had 30,000 deaths for a population of 220 million. So I don't buy this whole economy lark. In fact, some of the indicators actually show that Pakistan is not as bad as the media and the propaganda is making out. There needs to be a total rethink. Imran Khan is changing the conscience of the nation to think about some of these issues. And I think he's where he's at his best, which is with the people outside, creating a movement, nurturing a new conscience. And I'm hopeful that will change people. We have to change people.
Aki, are you looking forward to the Bhuttos and the Sharifs back in power? Good old days? Oh, is Aki still there? Is he gone? Aki, you there? Are you frozen?
He's frozen, I think.
Oh, wow. I thought he was just like really concentrating really hard because he's been maintaining that posture for about 10 minutes now while you were speaking. Aki, I think you're going to have to. All right, as you speak, Jahangir, I'll get Aki back on. He's going to reconnect, inshallah. Bhuttos and Sharifs back in power. Good old days, Jahangir.
Well, it's the same old, isn't it? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the 21st century.
Some people, Jahangir, let me just stop you there because I've seen a few things go around social media that are saying Shehbaz Sharif is not his brother and that he's not corrupt. He's actually quite competent. He did a good job as governor of Punjab. So don't tar him with the same brush as his brother. What do you think about that?
I'm not tarring him at all. I mean, he's on bail since last April for charges of corruption. I mean, any decent human being would resign You know, and obviously,
but nothing's been proved against him, right?
Yeah, but yeah, you know, can you think of any other country where somebody has actually been accused and is before the courts on corruption, where not only do they not have the decency to step down whilst the investigation's taking place, they actually select themselves and put themselves forward to be prime minister of a country's finances? I mean, it's unheard of.
Did Imran Khan play, you know, the same game as everyone else does? When he's in power, did he jail the opposition? Did he go after certain, you know, kind of media editors? I believe he went after the Geo News editor, didn't he?
Well, I think that there were already cases after the Panama Papers. So I think he obviously made that a major issue, and he was right to. Corruption, there's information that we've been looking at that, you know, that a fair section of the growth that Pakistan, you know, undertakes or increases every year is wiped out due to the proceeds of corruption. So Pakistan would be a lot richer if corruption was eradicated. Every prime minister that came to Pakistan, or every general, labeled corruption as an issue. The National Accountability Bureau has actually got, if you go on their website, you'll see all the cases, and they have recovered lots of money, and the evidence against the different individuals is there. So, you know, they clearly, there are clear cases against them, and they need to produce the evidence. I mean, if they were so innocent, why is the former finance minister of Pakistan, who's charged with corruption, not gone back to face the charges? So there are clear trends in terms of corruption. The inability of the judiciary and the army to actually convict people is the real issue here, and to wipe it out.
Dilly, if you can hear me on the feed, why don't you share the live link now, and we can invite some of the viewers and listeners on to talk to us. So Dilly, please share the live feed, the invite link. So brothers and sisters, come on, you know, we've got about 20 minutes left, I think, of the show before I wrap it up, and perhaps we'll go a bit longer if people are still watching and people are still engaged. So just click on the link and come on, give us your opinion, especially if you are a Pakistani yourself. I'm sure you know more about the situation than me. Perhaps you're in Pakistan and you can kind of give us the benefit of your wisdom. So just a call out to Dilly to share that link immediately, please. And as soon as I get people on and I can see them in the studio, I'll get them on the live feed. So Jahangir, just a couple more questions really before maybe we take a few more questions from the audience. How do you see the future of Pakistan? Do you think Imran Khan's finished? Is he going to end up in jail? Is he going to come back with elections, let's say in 6 months' time? How's the future of Pakistan looking internally and externally?
Well, I think if we know the political forces in Pakistan, I think they'll do everything to stop him coming back to power, because they are going to overturn the corruption cases. And clearly the United States wants a different policy. So I think what we'll get is this government will carry on. I think we'll see shifts in policy. I think the most immediate effect will be the pro-Taliban government that the Imran Khan and the Pakistan government had. I think you'll see shifts in that. There will be pressure for a different regime in Afghanistan, including different people. And I think basically there will be some easing to help the financial situation from the US. Obviously, the US controls economies through its financial sanctions and the releasing of money. So, for example, if it's about inflation and prices, that's always been an issue in Pakistan. But you know, the best performance was under Musharraf, and we all know why. The Americans were pumping money into the country; they were helping to stabilize the economy. So, I think the things will unfold, and you'll see the slow but subtle changes, and Imran Khan will have to be in opposition and challenge those, as will the Pakistani people. Ultimately,
so these massive, we're not going to see a Pakistan Spring or anything with these massive street demos. That's just like blowing off steam for a day or two, and it's back to normal in a few days, right?
I think the Pakistani people are, apathetic. They're resigned to corruption is a way of life. Maybe even some that the US is a way of life. And I think Dilly posed a question. It's certainly true that after decades of these two parties, they have invested in support throughout the country. So they have supporters. The media, the private media, where laundered money has been put into media that supports them. I mean, years ago, I was invited to the office of one such one new media group that belonged to a particular party, and then Musharraf was chasing them, so they laundered money into a media organization. So they have invested. It's a bit like the Muslim community in Britain and the Labour Party. The Labour Party's invested a lot of decades of work into the Muslim community, and they control it. So the
people
political system, and the voting system in terms of regions, Sindh will vote for their Sindhi feudal landlord. The Punjabis will vote for Nawaz Sharif. So it's going to be very difficult for him to get a huge majority if they allow him to get to that stage. But I think
I can see that we've got Usman in the studio. When Usman connects properly, maybe we'll get him on. But Jahangir, let me ask you this: sorry, brothers. I can see that you're having a little problem connecting. Try and use Safari. Don't use Firefox as a browser. If you use Firefox, you're not going to get through. It won't connect properly. So just use Safari or Chrome, preferably Safari, and inshallah you'll get through. If you can show your face, that's better. But if you don't want to, that's all right too. As long as we can hear your audio clearly. Jahangir, are the diaspora Pakistanis out of touch? Is there a divide between Pakistanis living in Pakistan and diaspora Pakistanis? I know. I mean, I've only been to Pakistan. I've only been to Pakistan once myself. But when I
think.
Wait, one second.
Sorry, go on.
I distinctly remember having many conversations with Pakistanis, and they were like a bit contemptuous of diaspora Pakistanis that have left the homeland, gone away to the West to earn loads of money, living in a luxurious lifestyle, and then commenting on issues back home in Pakistan.
There seems to be this myth that we don't know what's going on in Pakistan. Most of us have relatives that are in Pakistan. We have links. People get married. For example, members of the Pakistan consulate live in my rented house. So, I get to speak to them. So, and have done for years.
So you got your ears to the ground.
So I've got. So a lot of us have, and we know about the corruption. We deal with it. We have land taken off us. Every time I've just had a friend who's had a divorce case, and the lawyers have been scamming him for thousands of pounds. And when he got there, the judge said, your lawyer's not even come to court all these years.
Yeah.
So we have these experiences, so we do know what's going on. I think people tend to think we don't.
Okay, we're going to add Usman to the stream. Jahangir, just to let you know, I did say to you, come on for 15 minutes. It's already been about 20 minutes or more. So anytime you need to go, brother, I know it's late and whatever, just excuse yourself and you can go. Usman, salam alaikum. Can you hear me? I don't think Usman is. Yeah, I can see a few people are trying to connect and all of you guys are having problems. If you're on desktop, try it on your phone. If you're on phone, try it on your desktop. And do not use the Firefox browser. Use Safari all the time, if possible. and I think Chrome might work as well. Usman, I'll give you one last chance. Are you there? No, it's not working with Usman, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to remove you from the studio. And Usman, if you could try to just maybe reconnect, following the advice that I just gave you there, inshallah. And I can see one more person in the studio as well, but the devices are not connected, unfortunately. So you're going to have to reconnect as well. Okay, sometimes this happens. Inshallah, we can get a few people on before the end of the show, but we're having problems at the moment. So I'm going to get rid of the guest there. Anything left to add? Jahangir, I guess it's a bad day for the Ummah, really, isn't it? We're not
I think if you look at it, sure, in the context of the parliament and the vote and that somebody's out of power, I think that's looking dismal. But if you look at it in the sense that he's created a debate, a narrative on key issues, I mean, which other country would you even have a debate about the role of America? Most Muslim countries have US bases in there. You wouldn't even get to have that debate. The whole corruption issue, and there's an emerging younger population. So I think in that sense, I think it should be considered positively.
Okay.
If he manages to mobilize and activate young people to stand up against wrongdoing and focus on right, and for the diaspora Pakistanis who don't really take Pakistani politics that seriously, if they start to think that they do have some influence and can help to make changes, then I think that's a positive.
Okay, we're going to give Usman another try. Usman, are you there?
Hi, I am here.
All right, perfect. We're going to hear you loud and clear, Usman. Assalamu alaikum, Usman. Ramadan Mubarak to you. What would you like to say?
Wa alaikum salam, khair Mubarak.
Go ahead, Usman. What would you like to say?
I would just like to say that, well, there's a lot of things that I'd like to say, but I'll just keep it short. I think that, I've got a lot of family in Pakistan. I've actually been in Pakistan for the past 6 months, and one thing that I see in common with people that support Noon League, that still support Noon League, which is like more than half my family, and PPP, is that they all have a colonized mindset, and they're very illiterate when it comes to world politics and world history and the influence that Western countries have in their state. I feel like us living in the West, we can see what the West does more clearly than they do living in Pakistan. I feel like they all have that in common. But obviously,
Are you saying that basically, I mean, just to put it really directly, are you saying that the more educated you are, the more likely you would be to support Imran Khan?
No, actually. The funny thing is that there's a large subsection of the educated class in Pakistan that has, that are very secular, very liberal, and have a very Western mindset. So they don't really like all of the Islamic talk that Imran Khan always gives, right? They prefer talking about how great democracy is and how great the Constitution of Pakistan is and stuff like that. So I feel like it's hard to say. It's very, very complex to put them into categories.
Okay, stay there, Usman. Jazakallah khair for your point. We got Hamza as well. Hamza, are you there? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to add to Usman's point in terms of supporters for Nawaz Sharif and Bhutto. You kind of have two. You have kind of the lower class in terms of on education. I think what you kind of meant was they would easily get sucked into the propaganda, which is spewing online by the Nawaz and Bhutto camps. But then you would also have the other side, which is the more well-off people, and these people are kind of benefiting from the Bhutto and the Nawaz dynasties in power because they would have direct connections with these groups.
I was quite surprised to see a lot of the Pakistani media, especially like really prominent journalists like Hamid Mir, who's been pretty good on some issues. And I think there was an assassination attempt against him, but he was basically slamming Imran Khan and supporting Nawaz. So yeah, there's some real entrenched vested interest in Pakistan, isn't there?
You know what's quite interesting? I was quite surprised to see the Al Jazeera coverage. Al Jazeera usually does quite a good job in staying neutral. However, if you look at the past few videos they had on YouTube, they're interviewing Bilal al-Bhutto, they're interviewing, the Sharif camp and the Bhutto camp, and it's been quite anti-Imran Khan.
Maybe they can see which way the wind's blowing. What do you make of Bilawal Jahangir? I met him about 10 years ago when his or more than that, when his mother was assassinated. He did a press conference in London, and obviously he was 19 or 20 then. Has he matured over the years? I mean, for me, he's a bit of a joke figure when I just see him speak and like really posh, and he can't speak Urdu very well. Is he a serious figure now?
Well, I think the Pakistan Assembly has actually been quite good theatre the last few days, and perhaps the biggest comedy in it has been Bilal Bhutto speaking Urdu. His Urdu is actually worse than mine.
He doesn't speak Urdu. He like intersperses it with it's 90% English and 10% Urdu, isn't it?
But he's like all their children. These leaders, their money's in the West. Their children are in the West, they're educated in the West, their hearts are in the West, their minds are in the West. These are not really Pakistani products. They go to the old colonial Christian schools where their minds are shaped, and they're taught that leadership is their birthright. And their parents go, and then the children hog the leadership. It's a pathetic system, and really, Pakistanis need to stop this nonsense of supporting pathetic children.
Let me ask Osman and Hamza a final question before I say goodbye, and maybe some other people can join as well. I know people are trying to join, but their devices don't seem to be connecting. But maybe we can get a few more on before we finish the show. Hamza, and let's start with Osman. Osman, final words. How do you see the future of Pakistan?
Not optimistic at all. I don't see a future, but I don't see a future anywhere at the moment. So the only place that I see a future, Roshan thinks, and you've helped me see it a little bit, is in Afghanistan. But
obviously, I'm wearing Afghan clothes today for the first time in my life because this was a present from my fixer in Afghanistan, so I thought I'd wear it for the show. Beautiful country, amazing place. But I must admit, if it wasn't Islamic Afghanistan, I wouldn't be so interested. I'm interested because it's Islamic Afghanistan. And I do pray that lasts. But I am a bit fearful because of the dire economic situation and the sanctions that people will get sick of the Islamic Emirate after a few years. I pray that doesn't happen. But that's why I'm glad that I've been there a few times during this period where occupation has ended. And I did taste the sweetness of Afghanistan, definitely. Not only is it the landscape wonderful, the people, especially in the south, in Kandahar, they were just so welcoming, and I ate so much food. And I felt guilty eating so much food because obviously people are, all this food was being plied on me. But I think British Muslims, if you can go and you have good intentions and you go there to help the people, that I would encourage people to go, inshallah. Thank you, Osman, for being brave enough to come on and for your contribution. Hamza, I'll ask you, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future?
I'm quite optimistic, but that's because I'm quite an optimistic person. I mean, look, if you look at Imran Khan's story, he struggled, 20 years plus for his party and for the movement, and he's come off from a worse off position to get into a position of power. So it's going to be tricky because if the elections are going to be in October 2023, Shehbaz Sharif is going to do a lot of trouble in that meantime. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, inshallah, Imran Khan will he'll prevail. He's going to keep fighting. This is like he's dedicated his life to this, so he's not going to give up anytime soon.
It's interesting you say that, because I actually interviewed him about 11 years ago now.
Wow.
I think it was 2011, and I was working at Press TV at the time, and I interviewed him in London, in his mother-in-law's house, believe it or not, in Richmond, and that was after he got the divorce. So all his ex-in-laws seemed to think quite highly of him. And he basically said to me, "I'm a failure. Yeah, I'm a complete failure. The last thing I did, which I was successful at, was cricket. And for the last 20 years or so, I've been a failure at politics. But he says, my time will come. My time will come. I'm going to keep plugging away. And we're building a movement." And he did seem to me, I mean, it was an hour-long meeting, so I don't know the guy or anything. But yeah, he was quite an impressive individual, I must say. Obviously, he's quite impressive as a sportsman. But he was also asking me questions about myself, which normally kind of, very high profile people, they don't do that. They're like, all right, let's get this interview out of the way. But he seemed to be interested in me as well and the channel I work for. So I was quite impressed by that. He had those kind of interpersonal skills. It wasn't just like, let's get this done with, let's move on to the next interview. So yeah, there was something a bit impressive about him.
Do you still have access to that interview?
You know what? It's, Press TV had all its stuff taken down. It got banned from YouTube. So that interview, I think it does exist somewhere. And maybe I'll try and post it on my social media at some point. I think it was uploaded to another platform. So I still think it does exist somewhere. So I'll post that on my Twitter or something, inshallah, if you follow me.
Okay.
All right. Jazakallah khair, Hamza.
Thank you, man.
Should we try and get, given that you guys have joined the stream, should we try and get Chowdhury on? I know Chowdhury's been trying to join the stream for a while. Chowdhury, I've got you on. How are you doing, brother? You need to unmute yourself. Assalamu alaikum. Where are you calling in from today, Chowdhury?
I'm calling from Oldham, Greater Manchester.
Jazakallah khair. And Ramadan Mubarak to you. I pray that your fasting is going well.
Ramadan Kareem to you guys too.
Thank you, brother. Jazakallah khair. What would you like to say?
I just want to just give my legit opinion about the current situation in Pakistan. I'll just answer the question you recently asked to previous brothers about whether you're optimistic or not. I am actually, and that is only because of Imran Khan, to be honest. I don't see anyone else besides him. However, looking at the team members that we did not know before, for example, Ali Muhammad Khan, who gave that last speech on his own in the assembly, that was one of those speeches that gave me goosebumps. And I thought, okay, we, in the last 3.5 years where we heard about the team of Imran Khan is not, always giving him the bad advices or, bad opinions. I think people like Ali Muhammad Khan are one of those that would take his legacy forward if he's not anymore. So,
who is Ali? Sorry, I'm completely ignorant. Who is Ali Muhammad Khan?
He's one of the party members.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen one of his speeches, the latest speeches, where it went pretty viral on social media as well.
Right, so he's someone who could take over from Imran Khan.
He's not his predecessor, but I mean, people like him. If you see that they are in his party, you feel optimistic that okay, he doesn't only have rotten apples in his party. You got people like him as well. Yeah,
it does come across about that a bit, doesn't it? That the PTI is just a one-man band.
Well, if you look at it, it's almost with every party in Pakistan. that every party is known for the face of, okay, he's not a Khandan. He's only one. He indeed is one party, a one-man party. However, I don't think in the future that if he carries on like this, he will make a legacy, and then that won't be forwarded to any of his family members, like we know of the other parties, and which with the Pakistani people have, endured in all these previous years.
Okay. All right, Jazakallah Chaudhry, for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
Okay, I'm going to cut this short, guys, because I know that people, need to get a few hours sleep, perhaps before getting up for suhoor. So, last word from you, Jahangir, before I close the show out. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think we should be optimistic. Look, change happens when people come to a consensus on lots of issues. And, there's now a consensus about the nature of Pakistan's democracy, the role of the army, the feudal two-party, landlords that think they own Pakistan. Imran Khan clearly has the personality and the charisma to win over and mobilize a lot of people, and he's a fighter. So I think he will, whether he wins an election or not, he will certainly produce change in Pakistan, and he will certainly lead a lot of younger people towards another vision of Pakistan, which is more in tune with Islam and better governance, anti-corruption, and moving forward. So these are small steps towards the ultimate change that we all want.
Okay, so it ain't over for Imran Khan. Jazakallah khair for coming on today, Jahangir. All right, assalamu alaikum, brother. Okay, that was Jahangir Mohammed. Okay, let me close out the show now. So no one else joined the stream now, if that's all right, brothers and sisters. Jazakallah khair for Hamza, for Chaudhry, for Usman, for being brave enough to come on. I would like people to show their faces. It's just nice to see people's faces. I know people are a bit shy, no problem whatsoever. But if you are brave enough on the next live stream I do, whenever that is, to show your face, that would be appreciated. I'm going to close the show out with a few comments now, because a lot of comments have been coming in. Let me go back a little bit in time. Ali says, is there any way to make a comment with a donation? Yeah, there's this super chats thing, which we haven't enabled, unfortunately. I tried to do a little bit earlier today, but you need to monetize the channel and stuff, and we just haven't set that up. The donation link, I think Dilly did share it. It is in the description as well. So, and it's in the ticker underneath me. You can just see it rolling now. Donate to 5 pillars in Ramadan. So please do make a donation to us. As Dilly and I say, British Muslims are very generous, and in Ramadan, you've got about 150 million quid being spent on charitable causes, and 95% of that will go to humanitarian causes. And I think really that the British Muslim community needs to wake up and to understand that we have to give money to strategic issues as well as humanitarian issues. That's how we build robust communities. That's how we will build a strong Muslim community, by investing in media, in think tanks, in politics and institutions, and not just giving to emergency humanitarian projects, which we must give to. We know that. I give it to them as well, but we have to get it more 50-50. So your donations to 5 pillars, if you like our work, if you appreciate our work, please give generously, inshallah. Okay, let's get a few comments. There's a few rude comments here, so I'm going to miss those out. People talking to each other on the wall, so bear with me as I scroll past those comments. The ISIS Takfiri movement worked for America. They destabilized the Middle East. Yes, they absolutely have done. I'm not sure how that's relevant to Pakistan. I know ISIS are basically active in Afghanistan, where I just was, but I'm not so sure how much in Pakistan. Okay, again, people just talking to each other on the wall, which I won't highlight. India is overjoyed. Yeah, well, did you see that tweet by Narendra Modi. I should have screenshotted it and put it on, put it up there today, but I didn't, unfortunately, because I just saw it before the show started. Dilly kindly sharing the link. Sorry, I'm scrolling back in time now. Imran Khan removed himself for the way he ran the economy. Well, he did have COVID for like 2.5 years of his 4-year term. I think we've all struggled with COVID, and it's not as if he could inject loads of money into the economy like Rishi Sunak did. So I'm a little bit surprised that he's being hammered over the economy, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not in Pakistan. Okay, moving on. Dilly saying there are others that want to join the chat. Yasser has just joined. Yasser, I'm afraid, brother, I'm going to not get you on this time because I'm going to try and finish the show in 10 minutes. So please do join the live stream next time, inshallah. Ash says, I'm not Pakistani, but Imran is someone we have a very, very high regard for as a global Muslim leader. Yeah, a lot of appreciation just by the fact that, he stood in the UN Security Council or General Assembly and he talked about Islamophobia. Who else does that? Who else kind of, so eloquently talks for Muslims in that way? So we realize he's not a perfect person, perhaps not a perfect Muslim as well. But when we compare him to the other crooks and the rabble, not just in, Pakistan, but around the Muslim world, he's one of the best. Although a lot of people have been criticizing him earlier on in the day about his attitude towards China and not speaking up for the Uyghurs. Maybe that's fair criticism. I don't know. You know what? I think I am going to get a few people on. Let me just go through some comments because people are joining. So let's get them on. If you're going to take the trouble to join, I'm going to oblige you, inshallah. But let me read a few more comments out. Everyone is going on like Pakistan is some superpower. Nobody removed Imran Khan apart from the people in parliament. Okay, let me get up to speed with the same people are kind of commenting, so I'm not going to read out those comments. The fascist Hindufa Modi hates Imran Khan because of his support for our brothers and sisters in Kashmir. Overseas Pakistanis can shift the election in marginals if the elections are free and fair. For that, you need EVMs, which I'm not sure what that is. But I think that in the next elections, overseas Pakistanis can vote as long as you have a Pakistani identity card. Is that right? I'm not sure. What else? Complex Simplicity says it's time to be practical. Pakistan should choose whether they want to be slaves of the West, particularly America. Yeah, that's my position. I think. I mean, there's a big picture and a small picture here, and I think a lot of people are seeing the small picture. They're focusing on was Imran Khan, was he using the American card to cover his faults? In a way, does it matter? Because isn't it about time that we put the attention on America's corrosive influence in the Indian subcontinent, the Middle East, all over the Muslim world? I think, this is an opportunity to do that and to perhaps really, think about America's role in Pakistan, its influence over the military, over the ISI, over Pakistan generally, and say, no, enough is enough. Get out. It's a massive opportunity to do that. So to miss that open goal by people focusing on Imran Khan's allegedly bad record in office when it comes to the economy, I just think it's very short-sighted, and it's small picture versus big picture. We should be talking about America's role in Pakistan. We should be talking about the crooks, the Bhuttos and the Nawaz, those feudal landlords. Is this the future of Pakistan? Is this going to go on forever? Well, if it is, we've got the evidence for the last 40 years or more to know which direction we're heading in. Give me 2 more minutes, Brother Yasser, Usman, and Mac, before I get you on. Just 3 or 4 more comments. Yeah, some people just saying that the PPP and Nawaz Sharif's party do have a lot of support in Pakistan. We shouldn't underestimate that, shouldn't be naive about it. All Muslims from different cultures and countries should go out and protest at the Pakistani embassy. Sad to see it's just the Pakistani brothers protesting in London. Our Bangladeshi brothers should join in and support Imran Khan. Yeah, Nawaz Sharif's house was kind of, a big protest outside there yesterday. I saw that. Pakistani embassy, I don't think yet. Hamid Mir, the famous journalist with loads of millions of followers, perhaps the most prominent Pakistani journalist. He's a far-left commie who hobnobs with the far right when it suits him, just a dodgy guy. Okay, well, he's not here to speak for himself, but I'm sure he would disagree with that. Bilal is a joke. The Pakistani media is biased, from Seema. And 2 more comments before I go to the guests, inshallah. Salam, brothers and sisters. What is the real situation on Imran Khan as a non-Pakistani? What should we actually believe? Who is the good guy and the bad guy? Well, we've endeavored to answer that question during the show. Okay, let me get the guests on before I finish off. So Yasser, I'm going to add you to the screen. Usman, I think that's a different Usman. And Mac, unfortunately, the device is not connected, so I can't add you. I'm going to kick you from the studio. Maybe you can reconnect, inshallah. If you can unmute yourself, Yasser, what would you like to say, brother? Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. I guess I just wanted to ask, obviously Imran Khan's best opportunity is in the election next year in terms of coming back into power. But do you think he'll be given that opportunity? Because there are all kinds of games that can be played in that time. What do you see
I don't
happening?
know. I mean, I'm not the expert on Pakistan. I'm not Pakistani. I'm not the expert on Pakistan at all. It's a shame that Jahangir isn't here to answer that question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're not in power, you're in jail. You're in jail or in exile, aren't you, in Pakistan? So is he going to get the opportunity to fight that election? What do you think, Yasser?
Yeah, or knocked off. To be honest, in Pakistan, it's one of those, isn't it?
Hung, so, exactly. Are you Pakistani yourself?
I am, yeah.
And but obviously you're British Pakistani, right?
That's right. Yeah, I live in London.
So what do you make of the whole situation?
I mean, I think Imran Khan, anybody who's Prime Minister of Pakistan will have a difficult situation. So I think, the accusations around, economic performance of Pakistan are a bit unfair, to be honest with you. And even the issue around China, it's a very fair criticism, but I can also see the difficulty. If you want to move away from US influence, you need allegiances, right? And the reality is, geographically, that's where Pakistan sits. It sits alongside China. You need trade partners. You need strategic partners in terms of military and other things. And the close ties we have with China that have developed are what's helped Pakistan move away from US influence.
I mean, a lot of people criticizing Imran Khan for his stance on the Uyghurs, Yasser. What do you make of that? Because if there's one thing that people have hammered him over, it's that.
100% he could have been stronger on that issue. There's no question. I guess my point is, unless Pakistan isn't powerful enough to stand entirely on its own, it has to have strategic partners, and none of those partners are going to entirely have all of the interests of Muslims around the world. However, right now I'd probably go with China as a partner rather than the US, despite those issues. And those are, what's happening with the Uyghurs is absolute disgrace, and Imran Khan should have spoken up. I'm not defending him at all.
I've just spent some time in Afghanistan, and the Islamic Emirate isn't speaking up on behalf of the Uyghurs as well for exactly the same reason. I mean, they can't say it, and obviously they're very embarrassed about it because they do look weak and un-Islamic even by not speaking up. But the reason is they're just in a weak and vulnerable position, and they need international partners. So I guess it's the same thing with Imran Khan. But I think Imran Khan's gone a little bit further by saying things like nothing's going on. Whereas the Taliban have just stayed quiet about it. He's actually gone out and kind of like supported the Chinese to a certain extent, which
that's
pretty low.
Absolutely, and which is why I say that those are fair criticisms. And I think though, without, say, the wider Muslim world showing support, and you've got to have allies somewhere. So I can see why he's tried to protect that relationship with China, although the stance on the Uyghurs is just wrong. That's fair.
Okay. All right, Jazakallah Yasser for coming on. Really appreciate it, brother. All right. See you. Assalamu alaikum. I see other people were trying to join, but when I put them on the stream, they they either disconnected themselves or something, it just cut. So I'll carry on with the comments. Assad says, what is the solution the guests are proposing? Yeah, fair enough. We've criticized a lot. I'm not sure what solution we've come up with apart from Imran Khan. And is one man really a solution to these, structural issues? I'm not sure at all. Hamza's just joined. Hamza, give me a minute. I'll get you on, inshallah. Roshan, now is the time to go to Pakistan. Well, I'm just back from Afghanistan. Like, give me a break, brothers. Come on, man. But I would love to go, but I'm not sure if I'll get in, to be honest. And how freely would I be able to report as well? I wonder, because 5 Pillars is banned in Pakistan. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is it a free environment? That's one thing for me. A prerequisite is being able to speak my mind. Otherwise, there's no point going if you can't speak your mind. And if you can, then yeah, I'd love to go at some point. Complex simplicity of cookies and cream. Great name. Imran Khan did display some political naivety. He should have withheld his anti-Western rhetoric until he was the master of his own destiny and not reliant on coalitions. Okay, let's get Hamza on now. Assalamu alaikum, Hamza. How you doing, brother? Can you hear me?
Walaikum assalam. Doing great. Yeah, I decided to rejoin, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah, I think you were one of the ones that were in the back end of the studio before. Yeah, what would you like to say, Hamza?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, you see Imran Khan getting a lot of slack for the Uyghur situation, but it's important to understand that Pakistan's stance on the Uyghur situation is independent of any political party, ruling Pakistan. If it was Nawaz, if it was Shahbaz, if it was the military rule, they would all have the same stance, and it's a sad reality, because obviously you want to be in a position where you can talk about the oppressors to the Muslims, but it's just it's a sad situation. Hopefully,
the thing about China that I find, Hamza, is I've been quite a few places around the world where China have got quite a large footprint, and at the moment it's just an economic footprint, but they're not really interfering militarily or even politically in, it's just business at the moment, which is a lot better than the Americans, who basically want to change your way of life. They want you to secularize. They want to sell you Coca-Cola and Big Macs. They want you to become American. The Chinese at the moment don't want you to become Chinese. So are they a better bet than the Americans?
I guess so. I think the best way to play your cards, for Imran Khan, was to kind of be more on the fence. So in terms of, calling the shots, in terms of switching sides, it wasn't a smart move because, the military didn't let him do that. If you look at the Erdogan case study, what he did was he built up his country and then he started calling the shots. And even when the military wanted to take him over, they failed. Imran Khan, he should have stayed in, he should have built up the country and called the shots later on when he, was in a position to. It's just this, sad reality of Pakistani politics is, you only have so much power.
So you basically overstretched a little bit. Let's read out, if you can stay on the line, Hamza, if you don't mind. I'll read out a few comments. Umair says, coming from a village in Pakistan, my family, I can tell you, no one cares about these bigger politics. Some problems don't even know, and some people don't even know that, some probably don't even know that Imran Khan's out. They only care about local elected representatives. Robert Carter says, Salam and Mubarakia. Walaikum salam, Robert. Robert, a very good friend of the channel. He says, what I admired most about Imran Khan was his outspoken position against Islamophobia globally and his uncompromising anti-sectarianism. His ousting by the US is a blow to the Ummah as a whole. Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with those sentiments. What about you, Hamza?
I think so. Yeah, as I mentioned before, I think he should have stayed a bit more on the fence. But in terms of going forward, if Imran Khan had full control, 100%. If you look at US, they're not trying to improve relations with Pakistan. So why should we try and improve relations with the US? Biden hasn't even called Imran Khan whereas your neighbor China has. And obviously, if you look at the geographic location of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, they're being sanctioned by the US. India, we're not trading with them for obvious reasons. So China is obviously a better bet in my opinion.
A lot of people are going on about Khilafah and democracy. Is that even on the agenda in Pakistan?
That's a bigger picture. If there was one, I think that would take not just Pakistan, but it would take a lot more of the Muslim Ummah to get involved, and I don't think we're in a position for that. If you look at the Middle East, especially, there's not much unity going on, and in terms of Islam, the levels of Islam are going down. If you look at the Saudis and UAE,
they're trying to de-Islamize their societies. Like
yeah, that's it.
Robert Carter says this could be a blow to Kashmir. What are the implications for Kashmir? We didn't address this. Any thoughts on that, Hamza?
So if you remember, I'm not sure if you know, but when Nawaz was in power, there were some gains in Kashmir, some military gains, and what Nawaz did was he went back on those gains. He retreated from certain areas, and as a Kashmiri, I will never forgive Nawaz for doing such a thing, because if you look at the Modi regime, there's no sympathy for Muslims or Kashmiris. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to go on. Shahbaz, it would be a shot in the foot if he was to, give up rights on the Kashmiris. He said himself, I believe, that if India want good relations, they're going to have to resolve Kashmir. His idea of resolving Kashmir may be different to Imran Khan's idea of resolving Kashmir. I think it's too early to say exactly what.
Okay. All right, Hamza. Jazakallah khair for coming on, brother. And
no worries.
I think you said you're going to show your face next time. Is that right?
Yeah, next time I'll show my face.
No one's
my hair's a mess right now.
Everyone's like incognito today. All right. See you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. I'm actually caught up with the comments now. So we're getting towards the end, and maybe I can do an outro. If anyone wants to join, I'm willing to go on. People seem to be watching in pretty good numbers as well, especially on YouTube. So I don't want to stop it as long as people are watching and enjoying and finding beneficial. Faduza says, I think we as Muslims are starting to see a need for Khilafah, and democracy does not work for us, and being slaves to the West does not work for us. Trying to find somebody different. Shah says, people need to stop blowing something up, smoke up a Muslim leader's backside. Okay, he can't declare jihad and bring anything to the Ummah, or else there'll be no need for Prophet Jesus and Imam Mehdi. Yeah, lovely turn of phrase there, Shah. Goku says, what are your thoughts is it permissible? Yes, I think protests are permissible. I'm not an Islamic scholar, so can't give fatwas, but as far as I know, protests are permissible. Assad says the whole world would give Imran Khan the bay'ah if he established Islam. When he comes back to power, he should definitely make a pledge to do so. I think if he does that, then you get America invading straight away, wouldn't you? Hal Speaker's Corner says those people who don't know the difference between right and wrong will not follow any leader who opposes America. And I've nearly caught up with the comments. Let's try to get right to the end, inshallah, before I do my closing. Trust says, this is public knowledge. It's okay to be emotionally fragile and think about people. Okay. I'm not sure what that meant. A Y says, he's talking to somebody else, so I won't read that one out. I'm really bad at reading comments, aren't I? I'm trying to skim the comments for rude words and everything before I actually post them on the screen. Journalists of Pakistan are owned by Zionists. That's how they use Imran Khan's downfall. And Mansoor, are you sure 5 pillars is banned in Pakistan? We literally have journalists openly speaking against the military without any consequences. Well, yeah, that's what friends tell me in Pakistan. Friends and colleagues who are in Pakistan, they say that they can't access 5 pillars without a VPN. If there's anybody watching in Pakistan now, I believe there is, you tell us, can you access 5 pillars in Pakistan? And I was also told that you're never going to get it overturned because it was probably a decision by the deep state. I think we must, I mean, we've always covered Pakistan fairly, and we've always covered, you know, we've always covered different events and parties in Pakistan. We've not had a particular go at the military or the ISI, but when there's a news story relevant to the military or the ISI, yeah, of course we've covered it, because that's who we are. We bring you the news, we bring you analysis and opinion. We ain't going to duck that one, and if that means getting banned, then so be it. Level to Jannah says the US dictates to the Pakistani military and they dictate to the ruler. If the ruler complies, he stays. If he rebels, he's removed. And I'll read out 2 more comments, inshallah. IK's ex-wife. Yeah, his ex-wife, what's her name? Roshan Khan. I mean, she just bangs on about him all the time, doesn't she? Didn't she write some kind of expo? She seems to be absolutely obsessed, that woman. And I think is she an MP now? Because she was in Parliament commenting on his downfall and exulting in his downfall. I mean, talk about a woman scorned. Okay, Bless says, Pakistanis live off that country. It's the only country created as an Islamic republic, and it's a nuclear power, but the whole country indulges in grave worship. Okay, it is a nuclear power. We forgot to mention that. The only Muslim country in the world that has a nuclear bomb, which makes it a big deal. Ali, I'm going to get you on in about 10 seconds time. In fact, let's get you on now. Ali, salam alaikum, brother. What would you like to say?
Walaikum salam, Roshan. How are you?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Where are you calling from, Ali?
London.
London. And while you're there, I'm going to get Assad on the screen as well. And Assad is showing his face. I can see Assad's face. Alhamdulillah. Assad, how you doing, brother? And another Ali is coming on as well. So I'm going to get you all on.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Where are you calling from, Assad?
I'm calling from Blackburn. Just let me put my YouTube on.
Inshallah. And Ali, another Ali in the left-hand corner. We can see your face as well. I think you might be in your car or something. It's very dark. How are you doing, Ali? Where are you calling from?
Northampton, actually.
From Northampton. All right. So that's just up the M1, isn't it? Just north of Luton or something, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. Can I start in the top right-hand corner, Ali, the one who isn't showing his face? What would you like to say, brother?
Well, I just wanted to say I think we've got to look at Imran Khan within the full context. So, you know, when he came into power in 2018, the opposition alleged electoral rigging, and there was definitely some evidence of that. And we know that Pakistan's powerful military indulged in conspiring to put a loose coalition together, which included the likes of the MQM, you know, a party based in the south in Karachi, a militant group, and various other parties. So I think we've got to take that into consideration. And what's disappointed, I think, a lot of people, particularly outside of the Punjab province, is the fact that Imran Khan actually did sign these kind of, allegiances or alliances with these groups and never delivered for the other provinces. And that's also resulted in
that was the price of getting into power, wasn't it?
Exactly. So that was the price of getting into power. And my assessment is Imran was trying to do whatever he could to get into power at that stage. I genuinely believe he is probably a good individual, but the problem you've got in Pakistan is it's very difficult for you to come into power and maintain power unless you kind of do what the military asks. But I think he's disappointed a lot of people, and I don't think he's as popular as he is with overseas Pakistanis. He's probably not as popular outside of northern Punjab, in the provinces of Sindh and Balochistan, and maybe even, in the Pakhtun belt.
Thanks for introducing that nuance. I think you might, judging by the Pakistanis in Pakistan I've spoken to over the last few days, I think you might be right. Assad in Blackburn, what would you like to say, brother?
Yeah, just a quick, my discussions with the Ummah in Blackburn, and I've been to Pakistan in the last year and a half, 3 times. I've stayed in Rawalpindi. And when you see the situation of the people with this increased raising tax, You know, the IMF loans are, you know, converted into, you know, tax and so on and so forth. In Rawalpindi, you have no gas. You know, there's people who are having to, they can't afford fuel, they can't afford food. And the thing is, you can have Imran Khan, you can have, you know, look, you could have the Sahaba. May Allah be pleased with them. What would the Sahaba would do with the system that's in place? How would they change it? Would they even attempt to change it? Isn't the system that you have in Pakistan no different to the system that's plagued the world? So, you know, we live in the UK. People are living till the end of the week, till the end of the month, and they run out of money. That's because of the tax system. And what you see is that it's not Imran Khan. People need to understand it's not Imran Khan. It's the system that's putting people in this situation. You know, I made a comment and you said if people give Imran Khan bayah, the whole world would be against them. Look, the situation is this: the people of Pakistan, they love Islam. In the West, you know, Islam would not work in the West because the Aqidah is different. But in Pakistan, the people's Aqidah is Islam. So when people come to parliament, what do they talk about? What did Imran Khan even talk about? Nizami Mustafa. He talked, because this is what the people want. When in the West, you know, even through Islamic history, why is it for example, the Byzantines, why did they want Islam to come and rule over them? Look, I in the UK was a director of learning. I managed the education system in the UAE for 5 years. You know, really? Yeah. So I worked for the Hussein Hamadi, who's the Minister of Education. So I've just come back from there. I've had to come back to the UK because my mother, she's not well. But,
okay.
And I've been to Pakistan, and you know, I have a business set up in Pakistan. Okay, the reality is this: I used to pay 40% tax on my salary. Here, right? When you're paying 40% tax, and you have a system that's based on tax, it's going to cause problems. In previous history, what happened was the West, the Byzantines wanted Islam to come and rule over them, because in Islam, what do you have? 2% zakat. The Aladdin, we pay 2.5%, right? That is a just system. You will never break this cycle of corruption. People who are worried about Imran Khan or he's been kicked out, don't worry, Imran Khan's going to be back. Because this is what Nawaz Sharif did. This is what Bhutto did. This is what previous leaders did. This system will continue to revolve the same leadership over and over again.
Okay,
because these are the people. I'm talking too much.
I'm just going to stop you there, Asad, because I want to get the Ali in, but Jazakallah for your comments. Ali in the bottom left-hand corner, we can see your face. Go ahead, brother. What would you like to say? Oh, and Ali's just gone. Okay, brothers. I am going to say salam alaikum to you because we want to end the show quite shortly. We've got one other person waiting to get on, but Jazakallah khair for your contributions today. Asad from Blackburn and Ali from London. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah.
Okay, final guest today, M. What's your name, brother or sister? M. That's not your name, right? Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me? You got to unmute yourself if you want to speak. Okay. I'll give you 5 seconds just to unmute yourself. Okay. So M has gone. All right, brothers and sisters. Any more comments worth reading out? I don't think so. Just having a quick scan through. I think I'm going to end the show then, inshallah. All right. So we've been going for nearly 2 hours now, I think, which was a lot longer than I expected to go for. Jazakallah khair for everybody. I think the experiment did kind of work again. Lots of people did join. Extended the show for another half an hour, 45 minutes. Some really good, comments from people. Really good input. Really do appreciate that. Next time, brothers and sisters, show your faces if you possibly can. It's just nice to be able to see people's faces and watch them, look at them directly in the eye. Jazakallah khair to all our guests, Jahangir Mohammed, Aki Nawaz. Unfortunately, Aki, the connection was so bad, he messaged me and he just gave up in the end. Inshallah, next time, Aki, I would have liked your input more. I only got to ask you one question. Ali Salman from giving the different point of view. Oh God, we got Dilly Hussain. Sorry, I shouldn't say, oh God, we got Dilly Hussain. I was just about to finish and Dilly Hussain appears, because the fact that he's appearing can only mean one thing. He wants to say something. So go on, Dilly. How do you say right at the end? Assalamu alaikum. Are you still here? I was surprised you're still here.
Yeah, I was thoroughly enjoying the show. I keep the chat alive.
How was it? Give you an honest opinion on the show out of 10. How was it?
Alhamdulillah, it was a good show. I mean, we have to appreciate that Imran Khan and PTI have a huge constituency of support here, especially amongst the third and fourth generation British Pakistanis. And there is, we can't deny that there is an element of association of support for PTI and Imran Khan with the more kind of youth, the more educated, the more kind of Islamically inclined. That's something we can't deny. So I think he has a huge support in the UK. I think Jahangir and others made the point about PPP support in Sindh and in the south, and then of course Pakistan Muslim League Noor in Punjab. And we can't deny that these parties have millions of supporters, because before Bangladesh, and I'm making an analogy to Bangladesh because the politics are very similar. It was, I mean, at the moment it's a one-party state, Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League. But prior to that, it would always swing between the BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, and Awami League, both secular parties. But Bangladesh Nationalist Party was more kind of right. They would ally here and there with Islamic parties. The thing is, people in the rural areas, they just want their basic necessities fulfilled: education, food, electric. Bad roads to be fixed so rickshaws and taxis can make it to the markets to trade. And I know that there's been loads of comments, about democracy being a system of kufr and nation states. I don't think any Muslim who has a basic understanding would even disagree with those things. But I guess the conversation will always be the one about how much radical Islamic change, because radical change is one thing, radical Islamic change is a completely another thing. And I guess the conversation needs to be had that, can such a change take place in the nation-state model? And Pakistan, it will always be a focal country, perhaps number one, because of its nuclear power, because of its strategic positioning in South Asia. So my only comments would be the following. Imran Khan and PTI have huge support, and definitely a lot of support in the UK outside of Pakistan, amongst the Islamically inclined, educated third, fourth generation. But we cannot deny that PPP and PMLN have millions of supporters as well. We can't to deny that would be to deny reality, actually. And just
have you in your comment, we didn't really have a proper chat about this before going on air, but I detected in your kind of comments to me earlier on today and yesterday that you didn't quite buy Imran Khan, his version.
No, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Imran Khan is a politician.
Yeah.
And politicians are opportunists. And opportunists will milk opportunities. And they'll be, at best, they will over-exaggerate and over-exacerbate a given situation. At worst, they're outright liars. Now, anyone who believes that Imran Khan is entirely faultless, they're living in cuckoo land. And everyone who believes that he's a Zionist agent is also living in cuckoo land. Yeah. So we need to find a middle ground. And the middle ground is that Imran Khan is a politician. He became the head of one of the most powerful Muslim countries in the world from a militaristic point of view. And deals would have had to have been made. Deals would have had to have been made with the deep state. And anyone who believes that there wasn't an element of grooming and preparation, right? The timing of Nawaz Sharif going to prison and his daughter at the time when Imran Khan came in. Look, everyone knows Pakistan's deep state is, heavily influenced by the ISI and certain generals and military elite. And certain deals would have had to have been struck. And what that basically means is that Imran Khan he's not safe from not lying. He's not safe from not over-exaggerating a given situation for political posturing and for political mileage. We can't, Erdogan does it. Politicians do it. It's part of the system. It's part of the politics that you've engaged in. And it's not that I didn't buy his version of events. I don't necessarily believe that it was this was all a US plan to overthrow him, like Abdul Bari Atwan, one of our contributors, suggested, or even to the extent where Sami Hamdi, or even our brother Jahangir. I mean, Jahangir made some very good points. He made the point that the system's messed up. It's done for, and anyone who thinks it's a democracy is a bloody joke. There is no democracy in our countries, brothers and sisters. There is no democracy. We have
It's rigged. There's no democracy in the West, even. It's rigged in the West, but yeah, not as much.
We'd like to call it.
So you just froze there, Dilly. Go on. We didn't hear what you said. You just froze.
Hello.
Yeah, you're back.
Sorry, Roshan, I got cut off. I had a call coming in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
But we
so
missed
I
your
think
last
it's called
point.
a gangstocracy. That's what we have. We have a gangstocracy where gangs run the democracy. Can you hear me, Roshan? Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So similarly in Bangladesh, I mean, the reason I make the analogy to Bangladesh is because obviously it was formerly East Pakistan prior to 1971. And it was a one-party state under Awami League for a little period. Then there were some military coups, and then it became a two-party state, similar to PPP and PMLN. It was between the BNP and Awami League, and you had these smaller parties that the bigger parties would make the occasional alliances with, which included Islamic parties like Jamaat-e-Islam and Jatiya Party. There is no such thing as democracy in the European Western secular sense, which in and of itself is corrupt in its own version here in the West. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Imran Khan, we should take him as a leader of a secular nation state, that being the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. We need to be the same with Erdogan. The people who put certain leaders on a pedestal are the ones who are most disappointed, right?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's a common problem that we have found.
Should we take one last call from A?
Roshan, I'm going to leave and rejoin because for some reason I can't hear you. So I'm going to leave and rejoin.
Okay. All right. As soon as you left, A left. Maybe A wanted to speak specifically to you. Dilly's going to rejoin. So while he rejoins, let me read out a few more comments, inshallah. Let's take a look. Says all democracies by nature are rigged because the rich lobbies form the opinions that the plebs vote on. Let's get Dilly back on the screen. I think someone wanted to speak to you, Dilly, but
did you hear me? Were you able to hear me when I was?
Yeah, I could hear every word you were saying, but I don't think you could hear me.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean, look, Imran Khan, definitely. I mean, you know how my opinion about him not denying and rejecting the Uyghur situation. I mean, that's crazy. And I know he lost a lot of support and respect amongst many Muslims because of that, right? And that was huge. I mean, to think that there's 2 million Muslims, forget even if it wasn't even 2 million. Let's just say there was 2,000 Muslims. Forget about 2 million. Let's just say there were 2,000 Muslims in concentration camps in China, which China has admitted, by the way.
Yeah.
To deny that reality, it's hard. It's hard from the perspective of consistency. But we know that China has the vast majority of the Muslim world exactly where it wants it. It has them economically enslaved and dependent on them, and therefore it's bought their silence with their infrastructure and with their investments. So I think those brothers and sisters who are commenting saying, hey man, we need to look at a broader picture of Islamic revival or the Muslim world beyond the nation state and dependency of the 5 superpowers. I agree with you. I think most Muslims, I think Roshan, we would agree. But what I guess we want to know is the practicality of it beyond theory, right? We want to know about the practicality of such a thing beyond theory in light of 50 plus.
I do have one. I mean, I was having a discussion earlier today with someone about the Arab world versus South Asia. And I was saying, even though, I speak reasonable Arabic, and when I go to the Arab world, I'm not lost, because I can communicate with people. I still feel more comfortable in South Asia. And that is because I just think, controversially, please, Arab brothers and sisters, don't take any offense. I just think the love of Islam in South Asia is just far exceeds what I've seen in the Arab world. And there's a real secular streak there in the Arab world, which is very deeply entrenched. 100%. So I don't think the revival is going to happen in the Arab world. I think it's going to happen somewhere else.
I mean, we're digressing, but there are certain prophetic narrations.
Are you frozen?
It's questionable how authentic or how strong the chain of narrations are. are frozen. How about now? How about now?
Now you're fine.
Checking. How about now?
Yeah, don't move
Okay.
around. If you can
There are certain. Okay, there's certain prophetic narrations pertaining to revival coming from Khorasan or Hind, which suggests that that could include Afghanistan, that could include Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and yeah, there is the ghira for Islam is far more outwardly in the Muslim majority world. In South Asia, and we can't deny that. Look, the vast majority of the ummah is in Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and Indonesia. you can't take that away. That the numbers of the ummah, like 1 in 4, 25 to 30% of Muslims are in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and
yeah, you're
Indonesia.
frozen again.
And
all right, Dilly's frozen again. I'm just wondering whether, while Dilly's rejoining, whether I can end the show because I'm so tired, brothers and sisters. I'm flagging myself and need a few hours sleep before suhoor, inshallah. So I think I'm going to end the show, even though we got loads of people watching and we've got loads more comments coming in. But I think I'm going to end it. And the only way I'm not going to end it is if Dilly rejoins and scuppers my plans, which he has done. All right. What's wrong? What's wrong with your connection?
No, my younger brother Aki keeps calling me, and so I just messaged him saying stop calling me. So every time he calls,
right.
So I mean, look. In short, there's no qualitative data to prove that South Asian Muslims are more religiously outwardly zealous than the Arabs. But I think we see how Pakistan and Bangladesh responds when certain things happen. We see how Indonesia responds and Malaysia responds, and then we see perhaps the lack of response from the Arab world. And there's also an important thing to add that when we say Arab world, I mean, the Maghrebis are very different to the Khalijis. And Asham is in tatters at the moment. It's under occupation and brutal war.
Yeah.
So the Khalijis definitely are like, Allah knows best where their future is. Like the Qataris, the Saudis, the Kuwaitis have a bit of fire in their belly. But generally speaking, yeah, the Khalij is dead. They're dead. Fantastic reciters, fantastic defenders of regimes and normalizers of Israel. Other than that, I don't know what the Khalij produces these days, besides fantastic reciters. The fire of the passion of the Ummah most certainly is from South Asia and Afghanistan and places like this. But just to wrap up on my point, whatever meddling took place in Pakistan is something that should be opposed. Whether even it involves 1% of interference from the US, which wouldn't be unheard of. America has been deeply entrenched in Pakistani politics and the decision making of Pakistan, especially on foreign policy issues, since its inception, arguably. Because even during the independence war with East Pakistan, Bangladesh, America sided with Pakistan. It dictated many of its foreign policies. So, we also know that there is a strong, loyal base within the Pakistani military and ISI who are literally subservient to America and its agenda. Anyone, again, who denies this is denying reality. But there's also, I have to add, an Islamic element within Pakistan's deep state. There is an element which we saw during General Ziaul Haq's tenure as the leader of Pakistan. There is an Islamic element to Pakistan's nationalism even. And that's what makes Pakistan very unique. It was the first Islamic nation state. It saw itself as a continuation of the Ottoman state. It is the only Muslim country that I think has jihad anthems as part of its official military. So there are certain ingredients within Pakistan which does make it a beacon of hope, not only for itself, but for the region and the Muslim world by and large. But there's so many things that need to happen before we can even discuss that potential.
Inshallah, yeah.
But inshallah. So yeah, I think that's my concluding thoughts, really.
Should we just, while we got you here, should we just tell the audience, and still we've got quite a few people watching on YouTube especially, looking forward to the live streams. Towards the second half of Ramadan. We've got quite a lot in store for you, brothers and sisters. Dilly, what we got?
Yeah. So basically, we've got 6 live appeals happening kicking off on Friday. Friday's live appeal will be the first one between 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. We'll be discussing the censorship issues that that we have been experiencing, namely on Facebook or other platforms. We'll be having our fundraising manager, Isa Khan. We'll be having a special video message from our lawyer, Zilur Rahman. and others will be joining us, explaining the difficulties that we have been facing in terms of censorship on social media, namely Facebook. You're going to be doing one on Afghanistan, your assignment to Afghanistan. We're going to have Mozzam and Yvonne, and we've got a very special video message from someone as well. And we're going to have 4 live appeals on the 21st night, the 23rd night, the 25th night, and the 27th night, if you started on Saturday, brothers and sisters. If you started Ramadan on Sunday, the 3rd, then they will be on the even numbers of those nights. And we'll be talking about some of the kind of highlights and some of the issues that we've been facing, whether it's the Zionist lobby, the LGBTQ lobby, and a plethora of issues, with the hope that our viewers and our listeners will donate, and donate generously. I cannot, it's like being a nasheed and repeat. We cannot continue stressing to you guys how important it is to donate to 5 Pillars. And not just donate generously and dig deep. I'll tell you why, brothers and sisters. If you're in the UK mainly, but also in the West, and you're not looking to make hijrah anytime soon, and you're looking to raise your children here, you need to be supporting 5 Pillars. Because we can complain about Muslim misrepresentation in the media and then do nothing about it. Quite frankly, I think that's very lazy and irresponsible. I've met Muslims within, I have family and friends who always complain about media coverage about Islam or Muslims. Then I say to them, why don't you support 5 Pillars? Why don't you put your money where your mouth is? Why don't you give us £5 a month? Why don't you give us £10 a month? What's wrong with you? You would rather watch BBC, you would rather watch Sky News and the Daily Mail and whatever it is, and then, it dampens your mood, because that's what it's all targeted at. This kind of 20 years of Islamophobic media coverage it's a psychological game to kind of dampen the Muslim psyche. Where's the fight back? The fight back is 5 Pillars, brothers and sisters. The fight back, and there is no other media outlet that does what we do. Roshan, you know this. There's no other media outlet that does what we do. Fine, we may not cover news in a timely way sometimes. We may not have the resources to cover the breadth of the news of the Muslim world, but wallahi, we cover news in a way in which no others do it. Me and Roshan are trained professional journalists. We were paid journalists before 5 Pillars. I worked at Better on Sunday, my local newspaper, for 2 years. I was a documentary researcher for Al Jazeera and Press TV. Roshan's resume is vast. We're trained. Our contributors are trained. Hafsa Kara, journalist. Bilal Abdul Karim, journalist. Zulkarnain Bande, journalist. We have journalists, people, practitioners of this skill set. And also the type of journalism that we do, we are on the front line. We will call people out. We'll go after people. Who else brought down the director and the chair of the Hindu Council of the UK and outed him as a Hindutva supporter? We did. We did. No one else did. And no one else would, because it doesn't fall within their remit. Do you understand, brothers and sisters? We're not about creating a nice infographic and a nice video which gets 1 million views and that's a job well done. That's not journalism for us, brothers and sisters. That's not journalism for us. We want to get to the nitty-gritty of why our Muslim brothers and sisters in schools are being given a hard time when they just want a prayer space. We want to know why a teacher used the picture, even depicting the Prophet ﷺ, but then using Osama bin Laden's picture to depict the Prophet ﷺ. We want to find out who did that. Why did they do that? And guess what? They were initially suspended, and now they have been permanently let go of in that school, by the way. So these are the kind of stories that we deal with. We go after those who come after our community. We have it out. Just the other day, Roshan, I had a bunch of Israeli diplomats, senior diplomats, on my case on Twitter, right? We have to deal with this. Roshan, for a period of time, was accused of being an anti-Semite for taking principled stances on Israel and Zionism within the Labour Party. Brothers and sisters, no one does journalism and activism in the way that we do it. We want there to be more 5 Pillars. We want there to be more people like us, more outlets like us. But at the moment, there isn't. So you have to put up with us and you have to donate generously. And the donation link is 5pillaruk.com/donate. We've been around for 9 years. It's going to be our 10-year anniversary next year. We need to be going from strength to strength. You need to be digging deeply. And if you're not able to dig deeply, then you need to be at least sharing the donation link and encouraging others to support us this Ramadan.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Dilly. Okay, so we're going to see, thank you, brothers and sisters, for staying up so late in such numbers as well, for contributing on the chat, contributing on the feed. And yeah, we're going to see a lot more of you towards the end of Ramadan, inshallah, starting this Friday and then probably every couple of days during the last 10 days of Ramadan, inshallah. All right, from Dilly and me, I won't do an outro. We've said it all. From Dilly and me, goodbye. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.